Dr. Nick.
For maximum power exposure balls. Something that I didn't need a cartoon to tell me. Kind of had that figured out a long time ago. I had to register about it. That's not true, as far as you know. As I said in my entirely true introduction this evening, I am a lifelong geek. And I am intensely proud of that now and feel very comfortable with who I am and can't imagine my life being any different than it is. But it wasn't always easy being a geek, especially when I was younger, growing up in the 70s. And I wrote a story about something that I think a lot of us geeks who are in our late 30s can probably relate to: Star Wars figures and being taken advantage of by an older kid. The story is one of the very first narrative stories I ever wrote when I was I was a first level writer. I was spending a lot of time kind of like, you know, in one very small dungeon. I encountered a lot of kobolds in this particular dungeon, and I eventually made my way out and leveled up. But it's one of the very first narrative stories I ever wrote, and it means a lot to me. It is in my book, Just a Geek. Feel free to take a picture to put on the internet. Just a Geek is, of course, available in numerous forms for your consuming. Anyway, the story is called The Trade. And it is about an event that ended up shaping my life. Now, I've performed this story before in certain venues, and I believe it is even available in a live format on the internets. But this being Woodstock, I had to do something to make this particular performance of this particular story particularly memorable. It's three particulars. So, to make this memorable and important, fetch me Paul and Storm! This story was originally published May 8th, 2002. Before last night, it had not been performed since October 23rd, 2004 in Dallas, Texas. I know that because being a nerd, I keep notes in my books. So now, please come with me to 1980 and enjoy The Trade. When I was a kid, I traded my Death Star toy for a land speeder and $5. The kid who talked me into the trade wasn't really a friend by choice. He was the son of some of my mom and dad's dirty, skanky hippie friends. And he and I would play together at his house while our parents listened to Fleetwood Mac in their den with the door closed, giggling about a lot of things. Really didn't make any sense to me at all.
Loving you isn't the right thing to do.
So he and I were like prisoners of war, forced to share a cell together, knowing that once the war was over, we'd probably never talk again.
How can I ever change the things that I feel?
I was aware of the particulars of our situation, even at 8 years old. I had a high intelligence score. So I was naturally skeptical of anything this boy offered me. He was already 10 years old. He was in the double digits. So I knew that I should be wary of him.
You can go your own way. You can go your own way.
His offer came to me one afternoon in his backyard, next to his parents' swimming pool. I'd brought over my Death Star and some Star Wars figures, so we'd have something to do. There was no way I was going to endure a repeat of the last time I'd been there, where my only entertainment was watching him organize and gloat over his collection of exotic matchbooks. True story. There are things we writers can make up, and then there are things that are so unbelievably stupid we couldn't possibly have made them up. For example, that. So he and I were sitting by the pool, which was doubling for the shore of an exotic new planet where the Death Star had been relocated, as it does when you're 8. He drove up his land speeder, and as he began to help his passengers out, I casually and politely admired it. He immediately offered a trade, but I declined. There was no way I was about to give up my Death Star for a land speeder that didn't even have any obvious guns. He expressed some shock at my reluctance. He showed off its exciting retractable wheels, an exquisitely detailed dashboard sticker. Although I was intrigued, I resisted. I really liked my Death Star. It came with a totally cool trash compactor monster. He then let me in on a secret that only the 10-year-olds knew. Listen, Will, he said, Death Stars are lame. But land speeders are cool. Well, this was news to me, and it gave me pause for consideration. Did I really want to keep my Death Star, now that I was burdened with the knowledge that it was lame? How many of the big kids in my block were laughing at me behind my back while they raced their own land speeders around as I sat there with my Death Star, wheel and stickerless? While I wondered this, he repeated his very generous offer. He would trade me the land speeder for the Death Star. He didn't need to worry about what the other kids thought, he told me, because he already had an X-Wing fighter and he had Darth Vader's TIE fighter. This combination, he went on, speaking very quickly, not giving me opportunity to think, was even cooler than a land speeder. So he was going to be all right. I think this kid grew up to sell cars. While I considered this new information, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He would give me $5 to sweeten the deal.
Each old Death Star, speed of $5 only.
The force was strong with him. $5. I didn't need to hear another word. I made the trade, willingly handing over the deed to my Death Star without so much as a handshake. He gave me the land speeder, followed by $5 from the front pocket of his Rough Riders. Shortly after that, my parents came out of the house in a cloud of heavy smoke and said it was time to go home after a brief stop on the way home in a mini-mart to pick up many bags of potato chips and pretzels. Now, I know that this seems like a shitty trade, because it was. But at the time, $5 was as good as $1 million. And the land speeder did have wheels, man. It had wheels. With those wheels, I could ferry 4 of my Star Wars figures across my kitchen floor with just one push, all the way across. One push was all it would take for Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker to escape the dangerous prison the Empire had built from Tupperware cups and a styrofoam drink cooler in the shadow of my parents' refrigerator. Which was cleverly hidden from the Empire beneath the breakfast table by C-3PO and R2-D2, who would be attached to the back of their seats via an amazing foot peg technology. This vehicle was all that stood between the Rebel Alliance and victory. I couldn't believe that I had even considered for a moment not trading my incredibly lame Death Star for this magnificent chariot.